9:40 p.m. The garage door slides open. While I'm still in the living room, I freeze. 10 years in this house. I know every sound. The wind under the eaves, the neighbor's cat hitting the fence, the AC kicking on each night. But that sound, the motor lifting the garage door, has never scared me like this. Because I didn't press the button. I set the beer down and step into the hall. A yellow bulb throws a dull light across the cold tile. My shadow stretches long, shaky. My heart is loud enough to hear. Every step feels heavy. The garage light is on. By the door, a pair of shoes, not mine. I know what I own. One beat-up pair of leather boots, 2 worn work sneakers, black dress shoes for meetings. These are shiny, light-colored, fresh out of the box. They're not mine. I stand there, throat dry. Footsteps from the kitchen. My wife walks in. Her eyes flick to me, then to the shoes. For a split second, her face tightens. Then, like a line she's rehearsed, she forces a smile. Ah, must be the plumber. He forgot them. Too neat, too easy, too fake. I say nothing. Nobody fixed pipes here today. I look into her eyes, and instead of 10 years of something familiar, I see a wall going up, between me and the woman I used to trust without question. After that, the garage isn't just where I park the car. It's a hairline crack, warning of a collapse. And what haunts me most is that after that night, every night at exactly 9:40, the garage door opens again. 9:40 isn't just a number on a clock anymore. It's the signal that my marriage is slowly dying. I used to think I was the luckiest man alive. A quiet house in the suburbs. A wide garage that smelled like fresh lumber. 2 kids sprinting out to wrap around my legs when I got off work. And at the door, a woman waiting with a soft smile. From the outside, that picture looked perfect. I believed it too. My name's Richard, 41, construction project manager. My life has been concrete and steel, hammer drills screaming, blueprints spread across the table. The work is heavy. The pressure's real. But I told myself, you're a man. You can take it. I never complained. Every time I wiped sweat and dust off my shirt, I pictured my boy jumping into my arms, my girl chattering about school. That was enough to get me up the next morning and do it all again. I met Emily 15 years ago at a friend's party. Her smile was bright. Her eyes lit the whole room. I'm not great at small talk, but that night I walked over. We talked for 3 hours, then set a date. A year later, I proposed. Small wedding in her parents' backyard. I still remember holding Emily's hand, promising I'd stay, no matter what. I believed I would. After we married, we started building a home. Emily was steady, capable. She left her job after the kids came to take care of the house. I carried the money side, out on sites every day, hands calloused, back sore. But the sound of a baby crying and my wife's smile at the door made it all worth it. I remember the night my son was born. I held that tiny hand and shook. Tears just ran. A man who thought he was steel, sobbing in a delivery room. 3 years later, our daughter arrived. Back then, I felt like I had everything. A full family. A house with a small yard. A wide garage. The thing I used to dream about when I rented a cramped room. The garage wasn't just a place to park. It was proof I'd grown up. From nothing to a man with a home of his own. We had warm little rituals. On weekends, I fired up the BBQ in the yard. Neighbors wandered over. The smell of meat filled the cul-de-sac. Kids played baseball and laughed loud. Emily set the table with fresh flowers. I stood by the coals, turning ribs, grinning at the kids running circles. At night, after we cleaned up, we'd pile onto the couch with a Disney movie. Once I dozed off mid-scene. When I woke, a blanket had been pulled over me. Emily sat beside me, smiling. In that moment, I thought, maybe I'm on the right road. But sometimes you get so used to happiness, you don't notice it shifting. I dove into work. Out the door by 6, back at 8 or 9. Some weeks, I only kissed the kids while they slept. Emily said, "You're always at the job site. You're not my husband anymore." I put an arm around her and smiled. Everything I do is for this family. I meant it. But I forgot. Money isn't the only thing a woman needs. She needs you there. I started missing the small stuff. Her phone buzzed more. She'd smile at the screen, then lock it when I walked in. I asked. She said, "Just the group chat." I believed her. I kept telling myself, we've been together over 10 years. Nothing can shake us. Then the yoga night started. First once a week, then twice, then almost every night. New clothes, dresses I'd never seen her wear with me. One day, I got into her car, and a cloud of perfume hit me. Nothing like the one she used. I asked. She said she was trying a new scent. I nodded, didn't push. Maybe I didn't want the truth. They say men go blind when they trust too much. I'm the example. The signs were there for a long time. I looked away. I told myself, she just needs space. Don't be controlling. I wanted to be the husband who trusts, not the jealous guy. But blind trust can be the blade that cuts you open. Then came the night that changed everything. I got home early, sat in the living room, cold beer in hand. The TV was just a far-off noise. 9:40. The garage door opened. A familiar sound, yet it made my skin crawl. I hadn't pressed the button. I was still sitting there, and the garage was opening. I walked out. The motion light flooded on. By the door, a pair of men's shoes, shiny, brand new. I froze. My throat closed. Right then, Emily stepped out from the kitchen. Her eyes slid to the shoes, then back to me. For a split second, her face went hard. Then she forced a smile. Ah, must be the plumber. He forgot them. Too smooth, too easy, too staged. I didn't say a word. But in my head, a wall went up. From that moment, the garage wasn't where I parked anymore. It was a sign, a crack running through us. And what chills me most is that from that night on, every night at exactly 9:40, the garage door opened. The first night the garage opened at 9:40, while I was still in the living room, I told myself it was a fluke. But on the second night, that soft came again, right on cue, like someone had set a timer. I started to understand. This wasn't coincidence. It was a signal. After that, I lived like a prisoner of that number. I worked, I ate, I played with the kids, but everything orbited the clock. Around 9:30, my heart would race, my palms sweat. I wasn't Richard, the ordinary man I used to be. I was Richard, the man counting down to an engine noise that might tear my family apart. One evening, while clearing the table, I found a half-drunk glass of red wine. I didn't touch it. I asked Emily. She said flatly, I couldn't sleep. It helps me calm down. I nodded, but another hairline crack opened inside me. Another time, I reached into her car for the insurance papers, and a strong, sweet perfume hit me. Nothing like the scent she used. She said she was trying something new. I gave a forced smile. The sound of that smile cracked somewhere in my chest. Alone, those details were harmless. Put them next to a nightly garage opening, and they painted a terrifying picture. One afternoon, I took my son to baseball. On the way home, he chattered, then suddenly said, Dad, yesterday I saw Mom with a man in a red car. He said he'd teach me video games. I froze. My hands on the wheel went stiff. A red car? Are you sure? I asked. Yes, it was big. Mom told me not to tell you because you're busy. I forced a crooked laugh and brushed it off. But inside, it felt like someone had just pulled the pin on a grenade. The kid didn't know what he'd just said. I did. The truth had begun to leak. That night, watching him sleep, I touched his hair and thought, he's too young to understand what his mother is doing, and I'm too broken to explain it. On the third night, I couldn't take it anymore. I went out to the garage before 9:40, turned off the lights, sat low in the car with the seat reclined. I wanted to see for myself. 9:39. The second hand seemed to slow. 9:40. The door slid open. Cold air rushed in. Street light washed the concrete. A red car rolled in. I held my breath, eyes glued. A man got out, tall, a light shirt, a metal watch flashing on his wrist. He looked around, then smiled. Emily came out from the house and walked over. They spoke briefly, warm, familiar. Then the door slowly closed, swallowing them up. I stayed in the car, sweat running down my neck. I whispered to myself, if I step out now, it ends. But I'm not ready to hear it from her mouth. The next day, I brought a mini camera from the site and hid it in the toolbox in the garage. I needed proof I could watch with my own eyes, not just in my head. That night, I tried to sleep, and my heart kept racing. Early the next morning, when Emily drove the kids to school, I loaded the card into my laptop. The footage played. The red car stops. The man gets out. Emily comes out. The yellow light hit both their faces. They stood closer than friends. I stopped the video. I didn't need to watch more. My chest felt like someone had poured concrete on it. This is no longer suspicion. This is fact. Even with the picture, I sat there and tore myself apart with questions. Is this my fault for being lost in work too long? Did I forget she needed my presence, not just money? Was I never enough to keep her? Those questions dug like a blade. I felt like the loser in the house I'd built. One night, reaching behind the couch for the remote, my hand closed on something cold. I pulled out a chrome lighter, engraved EL. I don't smoke. Emily doesn't either. I flipped it open. The little click was icy. 2 letters burned into my eyes. I shoved it into a drawer. That night, I lay still and listened to my heart click like a lighter. The next morning, I opened the bedside drawer for a notebook and an envelope fell out. A hotel bill. Emily's name printed clear as day. The dates matched the nights she said she was at yoga. I stood there, frozen. Thin paper, but heavier than any brick I'd carried on site. My hands shook. The paper crumpled. I sat on the edge of the bed and read it over and over. There was no room left for denial. This was no longer the stranger's shoes, or perfume, or a child's remark. This was black ink on white paper. That night, I said nothing. I ate with the family, listened to the kids laugh, watched my wife ladle soup like nothing had happened. But in my pocket, the hotel bill smoldered. Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and thought, 9:40 is no longer just a number. It's the hour trust dies, and from today on, there's no going back. Ever since the night I held that hotel bill in my hands, everything in this house changed color. The kitchen still lit up. The meals were still full. The kids still laughed. But between us, a wall had risen. I ate dinner with my wife and children, but it felt like sitting across from a stranger. And still, every night, I heard that sound. 9:40, the garage door rolling open. If once it meant I'm home, now it sounded like a funeral bell. I lay still, too afraid to move, like a man tied up inside his own house. One night, I decided to break the pattern. I stood at the garage steps at 9:30, gripping the remote. 9:40, the door rose. But outside, only darkness and wind. No red car, no one. I stood frozen, chest tight. Had I imagined it all? Or did they know I was waiting? 5 minutes? 10. Still nothing. I lowered the door. The motor's hum sounded like a sigh. The next morning, as I tied my shoes, Emily asked casually, "You were in the garage last night?" I said, "Yeah, the door opened by itself." She smirked. "Old door, plays tricks sometimes." That line haunted me all day. She knew. One afternoon, with the kids at a friend's, I asked straight, "Garage has been busy lately." She set down the vase, looked at me. "What are you talking about?" "It opens every night, same time." "Your clock's precise," she snapped. Then added, "Just be my husband, if you still want to." The words weren't loud, but they cut like a thin blade. That night I sat alone in the garage, the lighter engraved EL in my hand. I thought of all the birthdays I missed, the nights I buried myself in work while she ate alone. I owned my faults, but faults aren't a license for betrayal. I may have been absent, but no one had the right to bring another man into this house at 9:40. I remembered the day I proposed, the cheap ring in my pocket. I remembered the tears when my son was born. Those memories still hung on the wall, above the very door that now opened each night. Saturday afternoon, Mr. Robert walked his dog past. He stopped. "Richard, your garage opens at odd hours. Thought you were home." I forced a laugh. "Faulty door." He nodded. "By the way, that red Camaro, beautiful. Engine sounds great." I went still. The neighbors saw. And me, the man inside, kept pretending blind. In the laundry pile, I found a blue dress shirt I didn't own. In its pocket, a slip from Silver Pine Cleaners. Name, Evan L. E.L. The letters on the lighter, now carved into paper. I gripped it tight. My heart hammered. I had a name. One night, I set the table. Emily came home late, trailing a cloud of strange perfume. I said, "I made your favorite." She said coolly, "I already ate out." "With who?" The word slipped out. "With a friend." She pressed on the word friend, eyes unblinking. The spoon slipped from my hand, clanging into the pot. And in that second, I knew we weren't talking about food anymore. From then on, 9:40 haunted me like background music. Reading stories to my kids, brushing my teeth, washing dishes. The sound of that door echoed under it all. I tried to ignore it. But you can't ignore a fire alarm in your own house. I gathered everything. The lighter, the cleaner's slip, the hotel bill, the camera footage. I stuffed it into a large envelope. On the front, I wrote, "House rules." Not to threaten, to remind, I've seen, I'm not crazy. Then one night, 9:32, the door opened early. No car, just cold empty space. Before I caught my breath, 9:40, the motor again. This time, the red car slid in. I realized they were testing me too. The next morning, I said simply, "Tonight, I'll be in the garage." Emily froze, spoon midair. "Don't play games." "This isn't a game, this is my house, and this door will close." She sneered, "Our house." I nodded. "Exactly. So we choose, keep it closed, or open it for someone else." She went silent. For the first time, I saw her eyes shake. 9:35. I stood at the steps, remote in hand. Emily behind me, her gaze taut like a wire. Rain tapped the roof outside. I said, "We have two choices. Close the door and fix this from within, or open it and accept this house is no longer a home." She didn't answer. Then the motor whirred. The door began to rise. Streetlight sliced across the concrete. I stood still, eyes locked. The shadow of red wheels slid in. Emily whispered, "Richard, don't." I raised my hand, ready to press the remote, and everything froze there, in a breath that never made it out. The garage door scraped open like a line drawn in the dark. Headlights swept across my face, cold light, sharp. I said first, short, "This is my house." The red car eased all the way in, and the engine died. Silence. The door opened. A man stepped out, tall, neat, a light shirt, a metal watch flashing on his wrist. He closed the door and looked up. Evan, just that. He gave his name, no excuse, no explanation. I nodded, said nothing. Behind me, Emily stood one step higher. I heard her breath catch. I set the brown envelope down on the step, peeled it open, and let the pieces fall onto the concrete. E.L. Lighter, the silver pine slip. Evan L., the hotel bill, printed frames from the camera. Each item hit the floor with a small, hard sound, like a hammer. The kids were asleep upstairs. Tonight, the adults would keep their voices low. I didn't look at Evan. I looked at Emily. "You don't need me to investigate. I need you to speak." "What do you want?" I said. She stood like a woman under a spotlight, knuckles white around each other. Her lips trembled. Finally she spoke, not in excuses, but as if pulling words out of her chest. "I talked to a wall for too long, Richard. I'd call, you'd say, 'We'll talk tomorrow.' I'd cry, you'd be quiet. You came home with more dust from the sight than words. Some nights I thought if I disappeared for a week, you might not even notice." Short sentences, each one a thin cut. I remembered the curt replies in text, the nights of pouring concrete on late shifts, dinners she set out, then cleared away alone. I breathed slow and kept my voice steady. "So you opened your door for him? Every night at 9:40? Like an appointment?" She lowered her head. Tears came, but they didn't hide anything. Evan stepped back half a pace, didn't speak. Rain slapped the corrugated roof, dragging that wet smell into the garage. I drew the boundary, clearly. This door doesn't open for someone else. Not because I'm blindly jealous. Because this is a home. The kids grow up here. We fix the house from the inside, not tear it down from the outside. Emily lifted her face, eyes rimmed red. "I'm not making excuses. I was tired. I waited too long. Then I stopped waiting." I swallowed. "Then don't let waiting turn into lying. If you want to leave, say it. If you're staying, the door stays closed." She stepped back half a pace, as if hitting an invisible line. I heard the house clock click. For the first time in a long while, I knew exactly where I stood. Not shouting, not smashing, standing like the man in the house should. I pushed the envelope toward the step's edge, voice low. "I've been quiet for years. Enough. Tonight's not a trial. Tonight is a question." I cut through the wind and rain, looked into her eyes. "So tell me, what do you choose tonight?" My question hung. Emily didn't flinch. She spoke short and to the point. "The night our daughter went to the ER, I called you 17 times. Your phone was off. Because of a meeting. Evan drove me. That night I didn't cheat. The next morning, I understood something worse than betrayal. I stopped believing you would be there. I stood still. ER cut into me. I remembered safety checks, dead batteries, dozing in the truck. No defense. But lines still mattered. My absence is my fault. Letting another man into the house on a schedule? That was your choice. Evan shifted half a step, voice low. I'll go, right now. I nodded, eyes on Emily. I pressed the wall button. The garage door came down. The strip of streetlight narrowed like a thread pulled tight, and then cut. Evan went around to the side door, rain gusting in, then it closed. It left the two of us. No headlights, no other shadows, just rain and breathing. Tonight, I said, we don't rip each other apart. The kids are upstairs. I'm setting 3 things. I held up 3 fingers. 1. From now on, no one else passes through this door. 2. We separate schedules for a few weeks. Protect the kids. 3. If you stay, we go to therapy. If you don't, lawyers, civil. Emily sat on the wooden step, hands woven, looking at me straight. I'll go to therapy, alone first. If there's a path for us, I'll come. If there isn't, I'll sign. I won't make it drag on. I exhaled for the first time in a long time. Good. I'm not demanding an answer tonight. But from now, no lies. No more 940. She nodded. Rain caught at the corners of her eyes. I picked up the lighter, the cleaner slip, the bill, the photos. I didn't throw them away. I stacked them back in the envelope, gathering shards into a box. A reminder, not a weapon. I set the envelope on the step. They stay here until one of us decides. No hiding, no acting. I looked at Emily. I know I let you talk to a wall too long. If there's a chance, I'll listen. But listening doesn't erase the boundary. This door shuts when it needs to shut. She nodded, voice hoarse but warmer. I'm not asking you to erase the boundary. I'm asking for a door inside to open again. I didn't promise anything easy. I just nodded. For a moment, the house clock ticked one solid beat. I found myself looking. No familiar scrape. The door stayed closed. A different kind of silence settled, one of boundaries forming. Tonight, I'll sleep on the sofa, I said. Tomorrow, I'll take the kids to their grandparents. 3 days to rearrange schedules, to clear our heads. If you need to tell Evan anything, call. Don't use the garage. Yes. We stepped across the threshold. I paused. Emily, whatever happens, there were years when I was the happiest man. I say that to close a chapter, not to hold on. I locked the garage. The latch clicked crisp. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked, one child turning. The hallway light cast a soft yellow. I spread a blanket on the sofa and set my phone face down. The screen flashed once, then died. I'm not coming back. Sorry. I didn't reply. I opened my laptop. 2 tabs sat side by side. Marriage counseling and divorce attorney. The cursor hovered between them like it couldn't decide. My calendar pinged with a soft tone. Thursday 9:40 p.m. Couples therapy. Emily. Accepted. And right after, Friday 9:40 a.m. Legal consultation. Confirmed. I stared at the 2 appointments sharing that old number, 940, that had haunted my life in the worst way. This time, I knew which door would open first. The rest would wait until morning. The next morning, the house was so still, I could hear the dishwasher breathing. I made coffee, poured milk for the kids, set down warm pancakes. Emily sat across from me, eyes swollen but silent. Nobody mentioned last night. I told the kids slowly, Mom and Dad have some grown-up things to work out. But one thing hasn't changed. Mom and Dad both love you. They nodded, didn't ask. Thank God, that was enough for today. I drove them to my parents' house, just like I'd promised. Told my folks they'll stay 3 days. On the way back, I stopped at the locksmith, changed the garage keypad, canceled the 940 auto open, killed the old remotes, picked up 2 new ones, one for me, one for Emily. Not control, boundaries. When I typed the new code, the click of the latch sounded different from the past weeks. My phone buzzed, a short text from an unknown number. I won't come back. I'm sorry. I replied, one line polite. If there's contact, let it be by email. Don't come to the house. Clear, civil, enough. Around noon, Sylvia waved from her yard. Richard, haven't seen that red car lately, huh? I smiled faint. Quiet today, ma'am. She nodded, left it there. Neighbors know when to stop. I opened my laptop. 2 appointments side by side like diverging roads. Thursday, 9:40 p.m., couples therapy. Friday, 9:40 a.m., legal consultation. I set reminders 10 minutes early for both. A promise to myself. This time, I'll show up. That afternoon, I cleaned the house. Put the envelope of evidence in the living room cabinet. Not hidden, not displayed. I taped a note inside the door. No lies, no 940. Speak while there's still time. Used construction tape, the kind I know doesn't peel. Before I left, I called my dad. He stayed quiet, then said, "Son, when a house cracks, you brace it before you patch. Don't wait till the roof caves in to call the crew." I said yes, throat tight. 9:28 p.m. I parked outside the therapy building. Long hallway, warm yellow lights. Emily sat waiting on the bench, hands laced tight. We didn't look away. The office door was half closed, the nameplate shining. Somewhere, a clock ticked. 9:40. The handle turned. The therapist smiled, opened the door, stepped aside. Emily and I walked in together. I told myself, this time, this number doesn't pull a garage door. It opens another room, if I speak the truth. The office was small, gray fabric chairs, a box of tissues on the table. The therapist waited till I sat, then asked first, "What do you want from tonight?" I looked straight at Emily. Truth and clear rules. My heart beat different now, not chasing a door, but my own voice. The therapist nodded. Good. Then we set boundaries first, then fears. The words hit the place I dreaded most, and the place we had to start. I drew a deep breath, ready to tell the part I'd skipped for too long, knowing that hours from now I'd be in another office, with a lawyer, 2 rooms, 2 languages, and I'd have to be honest in both. The rule was simple, 10 minutes each, no interruptions. I went first, kept it short, no excuses. The night shifts, the "we'll talk tomorrow," the emoji replies, the ER night I wasn't there. I ended with, "I let the job site take every part of me that should have been here, and I'm sorry I was gone." When I stopped, my hands realized they'd been shaking. Emily's turn. She didn't circle around it. She spoke of cold ER chairs, a hand with no one to hold, texts that went unanswered. She didn't paint Evan heroic. She called him what he was, an exit door that was wrong. "I opened the wrong door," she said, voice rough, "because I thought no one was left inside." The therapist scribbled, then set the pen down. "You have 2 tasks, reset boundaries and learn to show up." Boundaries. No contact with third parties for 30 days. Full transparency during family hours. No hidden time or schedules. Presence. 2 evenings a week with no work. 30 minutes of talk without screens. I nodded first, Emily after. The therapist turned to her. "If you stay, what are your terms?" She looked at me. "No more 940, no third person, and if you vanish again, I call it out. I don't wait." Then to me, "And you?" "Couples therapy, plus individual therapy. You keep no contact. I stop spying, but I get clarity when I ask. If either of us breaks it, we stop here." The first session ended with a handwritten agreement. Not a vow, a survival contract. We walked out at 11:06, the parking lot wet with rain. Emily stopped. "Thank you for sitting down." I said thank you for speaking. No hug, no touch, just a nod, then each to our car. The next morning, 9:40 a.m., I sat across from the lawyer. He laid it out plain. Joint assets, custody, house, garage, visitation, retirement. Each item could be a blade, or just scissors. I said, "I'm trying to repair, but I need a plan B." He nodded, slid me a checklist. "Stay calm, take notes, put the kids first, don't weaponize property." That afternoon, I picked up the kids. Before bed, I sat between them, said it again. "Mom and Dad are learning to talk better. This isn't your fault. If you feel sad, tell me." My daughter leaned on me. "Tonight you read 2 chapters?" "2 chapters," I smiled, "and no phone." 9:10 p.m. I closed the laptop, set the phone face down. I went down to the garage, only to switch the light off. Walked through the coded door. Heard the house breathing. The clock crept to 9:40. No scrape, no motor. Silence. For the first time, that number didn't threaten me. It was just the hour I showed up where I belonged. Upstairs, I read both chapters. Emily stood in the doorway, tapped the frame instead of asking. I looked up, didn't look away. She said, "Tomorrow night, 8, 30 minutes, no screens, I'll be there." I nodded. "So will I." Before lights out, I wrote in my notebook. Day 1, no 940, showed up. I closed it. The spine clicked like a lock. Ahead, 30 days. Behind, 1 door shut. In between, cracks still to brace. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, I fell asleep feeling the roof still stood, because my hands were on the right beam. Tuesday morning, I woke before the alarm. The house still dark, only the hallway light, thin and yellow. The hum of the AC steady, like the breath of a roof still standing. I opened the cabinet in the living room. The brown envelope sat there, quiet. Inside, the truth. Enough to remember, not to stab. I went down to the garage, punched in 4 new numbers. The day my daughter was born. On the inside of the door, the little house sticker she gave me last night sat flat, edges smooth. I ran my hand over it once more. Turns out, to keep a door closed steady, sometimes all it takes is a small reminder of why it matters. On the wooden table, my unsent letters notebook. I wrote, "I've been absent where I should have been present. I let the job site take the part of me that belonged here. I won't turn my faults into an excuse to erase the boundary." When I finished, I set the pen down, like I'd set the new remote into the drawer. They'd guard me, not the door. The wall clock ticked to 9:40. No scrape, only the hand sliding on. 9:40 still came, but I walked past it, here, present. The kitchen lights glowed. Emily leaned against the frame, holding a glass of water. We nodded, no dodging, no rush. She spoke first. "Tonight, I'll be on time for therapy." I answered, "So will I." 2 short lines, full stop. The kids ran down, syrup smell filling the air. My boy asked, "Dad, you're home tonight?" "I'll be here." He let out a quick, "Yeah," and ran off for his crayons. One small question, one clear answer. The best proof of fixing a house from the inside. At the site, I stood under steel beams being hoisted, remembered Dad's words. When a house cracks, brace it before patching. On site, we build scaffolds. In marriage, we build boundaries and habits of showing up. Both take labor. Neither give results overnight. But done right, the roof won't cave in during storms. That afternoon, I stopped at the town park. Wind through red maples. On my old app, the schedule for auto open 9:40 still sat there. A box popped up. "Are you sure you want to cancel?" I hit yes. Screen went dark. A small thing. But my chest felt lighter, like I'd cleared a long-standing debt. That night, when the kids slept, Emily and I sat on the stair landing, between upstairs and down, where sounds soften, light dims, and people stop trying to win. I said, "I can't promise you'll hear what you want. I promise I'll listen." She nodded. "I can't promise to forgive right away. I promise not to lie." The space between those 2 lines left room for hope to walk through. Before lights out, I opened the cabinet and looked at the brown envelope again. No flinch. I knew its place. Reminder, not weapon. I shut the door. The hinge clicked like a nod. On my phone, the therapist's homework popped up. 10 minutes of eye contact, no screens, no debate, just describe feelings. I smiled. 10 minutes may sound small, but for 2 people who use silence as walls, it's a beam placed right. I thought of the men who'll watch this story late at night, maybe lying on a sofa in a cracked house, listening to the hum of AC instead of the garage door. I don't have slogans, just a note. You don't need to be right tonight. You need to be clear. If it can be repaired, repair it for real. If you have to leave, leave for real. And whichever you choose, let self-respect stand at the door. I dimmed the lights. Before bed, I stepped into the garage, touched the little house sticker. Cold, smooth, simple. I whispered, "Doors close at the right time, so other doors can open." No one knows what tomorrow brings. Maybe we'll reach day 30 and find a crack of light. Maybe we'll sign papers and walk different roads. But I know this. Whatever script plays out, I've relearned how to stand. Not in front of others, but in front of myself. Night settled. 9:40 passed again, gentle as a blink. I didn't count it anymore. I counted the times I showed up. And if you're walking through your own 9:40 tonight, I hope you get some sleep. Tomorrow, try changing the door code to 4 numbers that matter most to you. Not to lock anyone out, but to reopen the door inside. If you're here, just leave. I'm here. No need to say more. Enough to know tonight you're not alone.